Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 288 of Album of the Day. Before I get into today's review, I just like to talk about the shirt I'm wearing. A shirt that I recently picked up from my friend Justin Trawick, who's a musician, and it says, "I'm doing alright." It's part of the lyrics of one of his songs called How to Build a Life with a Lemonade Stand. And I'm definitely glad to have this shirt. So thank you, Justin, for that. And without further ado, let's get into the review. So today's band is a band, I believe, from New York that have been around for a few years now. An indie rock outfit that is still kind of overlooked in a way. This is definitely a band that I've become a pretty big fan of in recent times, and I definitely wanted to shed light on how amazing I think they are. It's the band fronted by John Ross, known as Wild Pink, and I'm here to review their latest record, which came out on February 19th, 2021, and the album is called A Billion Little Lights. I recently got this on vinyl, ordered it online just in time for this review. This is their third full-length album, and I'll go into a little more detail about why I really like it so much. The first, here's the album cover. Very beautiful album cover, by the way. It kind of looks like a painting, but it also could be like a real photograph. Like, it looks like a sunset or something. Really perfect for the tone of this album, I think. And then there's the back, which I can tell this is definitely a photograph. There's 10 songs on this record. It's over 41 minutes. Released on Royal Mountain Records. Whereas, the last couple of Wild Pink albums were released on Tiny Engines, which were, their self-titled debut, and Yolk in the Fur. And here's lyrics, which I'm very glad to have this on vinyl, because, I'm going to highlight the lyrics quite a bit in this review. And then there's just the liner notes. And as you can see, I have a light blue colored vinyl. Here's side A, and then side B. Like, gorgeous looking vinyl color, and also a gorgeous record. And here's the vinyl packaging for A Billion Little Lights, the new album from Wild Pink. So, I first heard of this band dating all the way back to 2019, and they had just released their second record, which was 2018's Yolk in the Fur. I hadn't listened to the album at the time, but I had heard, a few other critics from Uproxx, including Philip Kasoris, who I'm actually friends with, who's actually an editor of music articles at Uproxx. I know that he loved that record, and and then when I started listening to IndieCast, the Uproxx indie rock podcast hosted by Stephen Hyden and Ian Cohen, they were talking about this band too, and how much they recommended what they were doing, and highlighting how kind of underrated they still are. So, in early 2021, I checked out Yolk in the Fur leading up to this new album, and I was so glad that I did, because that album is incredible, and easily, definitely a belated favorite of 2018 for me. Like, that record was such a tasteful crossover of, indie rock with the Heartland sound that you would associate with, the likes of Bruce Springsteen or something like that, while the lyrics were definitely very strong, and the vocals definitely had this Ben Gibbard-esque timbre to them. And now we have this record, and obviously I was looking forward to it, and my expectations couldn't be any higher. This was totally a highly anticipated album for me, and I'm so glad to say that, sure enough, A Billion Little Lights is an amazing record, and I think even better than Yolk in the Fur. Certainly a very strong contender for Album of the Year in 2021. When he won, certainly one of my most listened to records of the year. So definitely expect a very glowing review here with this album. It feels to me kind of like the sound that the band is known for, but just like taken to the next level with extra instrumentation as well as more fully realized songwriting and an even more seamless, seamless flow from start to finish. We kick things off with the song "The Wind Was Like a Train," which in a way is kind of more like an intro, sort of a taster for the album with woozy synths as well as dreamy guitars and pedal steel. And I also do love the additions of jaunty pianos as well as accordion, which gives it a nice little atmosphere. I will say though that I don't really love everything about this track. I do think it sounds like sort of a half-finished idea, and I get it. It's supposed to be like a tone setter for the record, but just like the lyrics do leave a little bit to be desired, surprisingly, on here, and also, I just wish it hit a little harder. But so in a way, this album does have a somewhat underwhelming intro, but thankfully, everything beyond this point is great. We have the song "Bigger Than Christmas," which right out of the gate has me hooked with its twinkly glockenspiel and balmy strings for some kind of progressive guitar playing, and the opening line being, "I can see every star, though it makes no sense. Time spreads them out like jasmine on a fence." Immediately, these lyrics are just so quotable. Like, they could be tattoos. They're like so quotable and memorable. And I do also love, all the references in the song of like reading about the Troubles and listening to the Pogues, and also some pretty relatable sentiments like, "If I should fall from grace, how am I supposed to know?" And also making a little summary as to kind of the overall theme of this record, which is, "It seems so clear, nature takes its course, year after year, always growing here." Killer melodies on this track, the pedal steel is lovely. The song also has a very triumphant finish that I really dig, that makes the sickest transition I've heard this year so far into the next track, The Shining but Tropical. This is yet another big selling point of the record, is just how beautiful and just how smooth the transitions from track to track really are. And also the way that it'll change pitch, it'll transition into a different pitch pretty impeccably into the next song. So The Shining but Tropical was, I think, a phenomenal teaser track, and I think it's even better in the context of the record. Bright guitars and synths all over this track. This track definitely one of the more upbeat moments after, a somewhat more kind of just more chill vibe with the first couple of tracks. And also that line of, "The coast is a crisp line, and all the microscopic life, like a billion little lights, become a single living thing, all beginning from a single cell, and now I can't unring the bell." Like, just reciting these lyrics, like, you could just recite these lyrics as a poem, and I would still be moved by what it's saying. And also, Very catchy song. I do really dig the female backup vocals. I think really add an extra dimension to this song. And yeah, it is just definitely a shining highlight on this record. That then transitions into the more spacey Amalfi, which Amalfi but still has some very complex, interesting melodies, and also some of the lines in the track, like "Just Living for the Dog Now," I think are pretty relatable considering we've been all stuck in our homes for a year. And I'm pretty sure this entire record was made before COVID hit, but I definitely think it's even more relatable now than it was at the time it may have been written. I also do like the ghost-like harmonies on the track. I think are definitely very nice. It's very nice, and we even have a synth solo that sounds exactly like the solo from an MGMT song, Me and Michael, which is a compliment. Even though I'm not the biggest MGMT fan, I do think that is one of their better, that is one of their best songs, and I do think it had a very unique synth tone to it, and so the fact that we have another song that has a similar sort of timbre to the synth solo is actually kind of cool. Then we have the slightly more country-tinged Oversharers Anonymous. Pedal steel all over this thing that just paints the song so beautifully. Yet another very catchy moment on the record. I think, all the single choices were definitely pretty spot on, and they didn't feel misleading or anything. And then also, kind of the song's whole sentiment of like, why can't both things be true, is definitely quite relatable. And if you pay attention to the first 8 or so lines, you'll definitely know what I mean. And the lyrics actually get kind of darkly comical on this song. Like that line of "This is a line I didn't even realize was there until like the last time I just listened to this preparing for this review." The line of "You're a fucking baby, but your pain is valid too." Like it's kind of a it's kind of a sad kind of line there, but also at the same time kind of witty in a way. And it was like, how did I not know this line was there when I'd been listening to this album nonstop since it came out in February? I also do love how the lyrics of the second verse about, a bunch of buffalo that was shot by, so, and going around and skinning them, like, it kind of feels like this very morbid war epic, in the second verse, and yet it's used as some really interesting kind of metaphors in a way. I may not know exactly what some of these lyrics are about, but regardless, there's barely a boring moment on this album in terms of the songwriting, which is, I gotta give it to John Ross for that. Also, I do love the fiddles near the end of the track. I just think I just think are so beautiful, and that kind of instrumental passage at the end of the track is just incredible. And we also do have a bit of saxophone in there as well, which is kind of cool. My only issues with the track being, I wish it didn't have that fade out. It feels a little awkward considering it's happening during one of the most jam-like kind of sequences of the record, and it just sounds so incredible. And also I wish I could hear the saxophone a little better, but it's kind of there for atmosphere, and I understand. Probably the poppiest song on the album, though, is "You Can Have It Back," which is definitely probably the simplest track on the record, aside from the intro track. But still, this song is just proof that John Ross just knows how to write a hell of a chorus. the do do, you can have it back, do do, you can have it back. It's just so easy to sing along to. Like, I really dig that characteristic about this song. And then also this song is kind of about how, dream. Like how our fascination with dreams kind of shape who we are as humans. Like, it's kind of like there was something you had in a dream that you wish you could get back, but it just kind of slipped away from your hands. And then we go into Family Friends, and literally for the opening lines, John Ross says this: "Every day is Groundhog's Day now. Writing in the afternoon. Temple of Doom on mute." Yet another sort of lyric that's definitely relatable in an era where we've been a little isolated from the outside world, and we've taken pleasure in just writing or like watching some of our favorite movies from when we were kids or something like that. So, and then also incredible chorus on this track. Track that's also incredibly catchy. Like, I think this song is a really good example of how the female vocalist, who apparently is Julia Steiner, the lead singer from Rat Boys, adds kind of a whole new dimension to the song. Sometimes you add an extra vocalist and they just don't really do anything to, take the song to another emotional level. But Julia, I think, like her vocals, which just have the perfect pitch, it sort of make the emotions and sort of the lyrics, the messages of this album feel kind of three-dimensional in a way, which is quite amazing, which is just proof of how impeccably produced all these songs are. The song track Mud is definitely a much subtler, more kind of meditative moment on the record in a way. Beautiful layers of reverb synths and piano, and also it's a piano. And even though there is kind of some positive self-talk kind of happening in the lyrics of like quiet down your ruminating thoughts, as well as easing the furrow of your brow, may suggest that this is one of the more hopeful songs on the record. But if you pay closer attention to the lyrics, clearly this song seems to be about John Ross's struggles with anxiety and how he kind of has to repeat these little mantras to himself to sort of calm himself down, and also using mud as a metaphor so beautifully to describe trying to wash yourself clean of like any sort of mistakes or things you may have done that you wish you hadn't or something like that, and also like those colorful vibey layers really shine through, like in the post-chorus, like after the actual lyrics in the chorus, and yet another transition that I really dig. The way that I can hear a little bit of glockenspiel, and I think I heard maybe even some wind chimes in the background. It's kind of a faint sound, and you kind of have to crank up the volume in order to hear it. But like all the little details in the production are just like something that I think wasn't really there as much on their last record. That's just on full display here. Then we close off the album on a very strong note, like with Pacific City, which certainly has some pretty memorable lyrics, like watching the movie Heat in the evenings, and feeling sad when the robbers die. And there are definitely lyrics on here about how simple things that are supposed to bring you joy and like utter happiness also turn out to be kind of the source of you feeling lonely or even a little sad. Like the line of seeing an advertisement with an orange bringing a tear to your eye is certainly quite relatable. And sort of how when everything seems to be the way you planned, you still everyone still seems like happier than you. So it's definitely a very relatable song, kind of about, isolation in a way. Uh, and then in a way, also very beautifully composed song. Like, I think the melodies are really strong. I think the use of saxophone is like done really well. Just the way that it's layered and has just the right amount of reverb on it. Like, it definitely adds this really, noticeable flavor to the song that, I just can't get enough of over the Americana over the backing Americana instrumentation. And then we close things off on a very satisfying note with the song Die Outside, which is a cool little kind of conclusion, sort of reiterates a lot of the themes we've been hearing throughout this record, but also just sort of, giving it a very nice conclusion, sort of being content with, life not being so perfect. And in the song, he's basically, looking at death and how, when, our final day comes to us, we should, just be grateful for, yeah, what we have for that day, and, just sort of, it looks at death in a rather resilient kind of way, which I really appreciate. Very triumphant chorus as well. Incredibly catchy. Like, I think this is yet another song that balances, the, kind of the darkness with the light so incredibly well. And really, that's kind of what this album is all about, sort of, you know, taking a step back and, really observing the little lights that surround us, even during our darkest moments. And I know on paper it sounds cliched, but the way that this whole message is reflected in the lyrics, is just like, it's far from cliched. Like, it's like, it's the kind of thing that, I mean, the lyrics in this thing, they don't want to bother with cliche, hate cliche, and stuff like that. So yeah, like A Billion Little Lights, really phenomenal, near perfect album. I do think, Wild Pink really further perfected their sound on this album. Like, I think the songwriting, like, I pretty much hang on to every word being said on this album. Like, that's how strong the lyrics are. And musically, I think it's beautiful. I think the expanded instrumentation, instead of, watering down their sound, they've actually further refined it. And also, I just gotta give it to John Ross and Company and their impeccable use of reverb and atmosphere. Sometimes when you use a lot of that, the music tends to be kind of boring and, like, even a little bit drab, either because, they don't have the dynamics correct, or there's a lack of, decent songwriting to really carry it over. But, like, this album doesn't have any of those sort of, flaws in it. And I definitely, gotta give it to them. Also, I think the transitions are incredible throughout. And, yeah, I don't have enough nice things to say about this band and this album especially. So definitely a 9 out of 10 for me. Easy album of the year contender for me. If so, hopefully, those of you who may have heard this album, who are watching this review, loved it as much as I did. There's probably a lot of people that haven't. But, if you haven't, please get on the Wild Pink train, like, sooner rather than later. They're a fantastic band. John Ross is such a special songwriter, and, I just hope that, these guys don't get overlooked too much for any longer, because this is easily the best thing they've done so far, and I can't wait to see where they progress from here. That's my review of A Billion Little Lights, the new album from Wild Pink. And I'll see you for episode 289.